What a joy that you have found us for this podcast. How exciting it is to think that this spiritual message is going out to people around this planet. Whether your life is working at a peak level or whether it can use some enhancement, have I got the message for you today. So get a piece of paper, get ready to take notes, call a friend, have them watch this podcast also. Then you too can have something to talk about and take it to a deeper level. So enjoy. Here we go. Well, good morning, Seaside. Wow, what a joy it is to be here with you today, a fabulous day. And I want to share with you something I have seldom done here, but I want to introduce a gentleman who truly is one of the greatest religious science ministers of all times. For the last 40 years has probably inspired more ministers than any other single minister in our movement. He has been the heart of religious science. In the 70s, when I had Sundays off, that's where I would go to his church in Palm Springs, and has recently moved to our neighborhood. Welcome home. Glad to see you here in the front row, Dr. Tom Costa. Truly one of the greats. Yeah, people would come through here because they'd have to go away from the desert during the summer, and they say, "Oh, I go to Dr. Tom's church. I'm only here for a few weeks. I'm going back." So, hey, how great. Well, here we are, September. Remember the Tom Jones song? Remember that time in September when things were slow and oh so mellow? Well, it's not like that at all. Man, it is way too busy around here. You know, we started our elementary school this week. The adult classes are beginning. We have just repainted and refurbished the sanctuary. We're getting ready to kick off our fall program in October. Will You Grow, where we challenge you from the depth of your being. Will you grow beyond where you are? And so slowness is not where it's at. But in the midst of the action, the activity, and the chaos, and the aliveness, can you remember to connect with Spirit? That's the key. And so this morning's message is the mystical keys to the unseen. And I remember searching for those mystical keys. I one time went to Egypt, and I heard if you could spend the night in the Great Pyramid, which was not a possibility for me. But when I did get to the Great Pyramid, the lights had gone out in there, and the guides took out the tourists that were in there and brought them down with the candle, and there were no lights, but I had a flashlight. And so I crawled up that little tube up into the king's chamber of the Great Pyramid, and there was nobody there but me and my flashlight. And so I jumped on into the sarcophagus of the king's chamber, and I did my meditation, my oming, and all that great stuff. It was good. But it wasn't like I found the great keys I had searched the world for. Or one time, I spent the night with my back against the walled gate, the golden gate into Jerusalem, the gate that Jesus was supposed to enter. And it didn't happen there. And I one time took the people from Seaside, and we trekked up to 17,500 feet in the Himalayas of Tibet. You know, it was good. I mean, don't get me wrong. You're in consciousness, you're able to move into that era of their golden age. You're able to enter into that time and the energy and the aliveness and the people. But I discovered there is no more God there than there is here in Encinitas. I would get back on the plane on the way home from these great journeys, and my soul would be going, wow, it wasn't there any more than it is here. And I believe one of those mystical keys is that omnipresence, that God is everywhere. You do not need to be in the top of the Himalayas or in the pyramids, that you could be sitting right here, or you could be walking along the beach, or you could be in a conversation and be able to connect with that. That right identification is another one of those spiritual keys, those mystical keys to the unseen, is to be able to identify. Identify with the Spirit in the midst of wherever you are in the world or in your life. Am I able to identify? Right identification. Am I able to look out at the world, not through my human consciousness, not through my corporal mind, not through my mortal mind, but am I able to look out from that God mind, that God place, that right identification? Am I able to look out? Because that world is talking to us. It is bombarding us with things for our attention. I've got going on in my head a lot of times what I call the committee. You got that committee? It's like the thoughts going on, like, I shouldn't have left those dishes in the sink this morning. I know I'm going to get in trouble when I get home. You know? or the guilt, or sometimes I can hear mom talking to me still, or you've got your boss, your employer, the committee, our society's belief, and if that isn't enough chatter going on, and you're trying to have right identification, because Christians said God's omnipresent, and yet life is saying, how are you going to make ends meet and pay those bills? If that's not enough, our media, sledgehammer, bam! Oh, unless you're fit, young, vibrant, and rich, hey, you don't quite have it yet. Unless you're looking like Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt, as rich as Trump. Oh, man. And all of a sudden, the insecurity begins to slip in, and another voice in the committee. And the committee can stir up the energy and the anger. And what I've discovered is anger does not solve problems any more than a fan straightens out a pile of papers in our life. It's right identification. What am I identifying with? Because I want for you so much. I want for you in your life. I want for you to feel the energy, the aliveness, the joy, the belief. To be able to live a life where there is laughter and happiness and abundance and love-making and ease and grace. So you are able to be in a world that is amazingly dynamic and magically wonderful at the level of your choice, knowing that this is the natural state. And the mystical key is that right identification and to know that God is present right there in the midst of that. I want this for you. That's why we've got the classes. I encourage you to sign up today if you're not in my foundation class on Tuesday night. It is brand new. It is going out to the whole movement of religious science in January. You get it here first at Seaside. I want you in there because I want these things for you. But if you're going to be in class and, oh no, I've got homework. And all of a sudden, the stress. And all of a sudden, it's like, here is another job obligation that I've got. And it begins to weigh heavy. Don't want you there. And that is what's happening in our society as we take on one more thing. I can squeeze this one more thing in. And all of a sudden, you're not giving your full time and your full energy. And you've got to begin to be a little bit more, in a sense, realistic with some of the expectations in your life. Realistic expectations, like, I realize in my life, we were talking about identifying. I've come to realize that this body of mine was not made up to be a shot putter. As much as I visualize and affirm and see myself standing at the next Olympics on the top rung and getting the gold medal as a shot putter, I've got to come to that is an unrealistic expectation of myself. It's not going to happen. It's the wrong thing for me to be identifying with. As hard as I try, that's probably not going to happen to me. And yet people will take these same kind of unrealistic expectations and apply it to their relationships. A relationship where the person you're with kind of looks like Freddy Krueger, that guy from Nightmare from Elm Street, or that woman from Fatal Attraction. And you're not going to be able to change them. That would be an unrealistic expectation. As much as you may want to commit your life to changing that person, maybe it's time to realize this relationship isn't really what I'm looking for. It's not honoring my soul. Hey, this body is not going to be an Olympic shot putter. What is it? Am I going to try to force it in another class? These things, if the timing is not right and it's not a right thing for you to be doing, is to be able to step back and say, okay, God's everywhere. What is it for me to know here? How can I connect? It's very amusing. I told a story at the first service. I see pennies all over the stage here. This is funny, whoever put it up. I told them at the first service that when I see a penny, I bend over and I pick it up. And people say, but you don't need a penny in your life. And there's others beliefs that you see a penny and you've been blessed by an angel. But you know what it says on all pennies? In God we trust. So whenever I see, I don't know who did that, but whenever I see a penny on the ground, I stop, and what it becomes is a reminder to me. It's a reminder that I've got to put my trust in God. Here's all these gifts. All of a sudden, through the course of the day, I stop, and it's like a prayer. It's a prayer where I say, you know what? The chaos, the war, the confusion in my life and the world. Stop identifying with that. Stop looking at it from the human perspective and see it from the God perspective. For a moment there, it is a prayer to remember it's God I am trusting, not the world of effects, not my body, not my bank account. And in that moment, that penny is as good as gold to me because it is reminding me who I am and what I am. And what I am is Spirit expressing in this world. Ernest Holmes, the founder of religious science, he was real big on oneness, which is truly one of those mystical traits. It's one of the mystical keys to the unseen, is our sense of oneness with the omnipresent, with that which is everywhere, that God presence that I am choosing to identify with. Ernest Holmes talked that you could heal anything if you could eliminate that sense of separation and be in that place of oneness. You know, we're told, Jesus said, I and the Father are one. That oneness seems to show up everywhere. You know, like in the beginning, God breathed His life into us, right? Said God breathed His life into man. He didn't say gave man life. It's not man's life or our life. It is God's life that was breathed into us. You know, the mind of God, that is what I am. It is not all of a sudden God gave me my mind. It is the mind of God that I am, that I'm working to express in this world. I am that which is. That breath is Spirit expressing as me. That is the oneness that the mystics talk about. That is what's going to get you to the unseen, that invisible essence, where it all comes from. And it all returns back. It transcends time and space. Just as you're able to enter into a culture that is long gone, or a memory that is long gone, in that omnipresent place, there is no time and there is no space. There is just the oneness where it is all possible. And what I am choosing to identify with, whether it's wholeness, whether it's sickness, whether it's age, or whether it's a vivacious expression of Spirit, that is what can show up in my life. And so I'm choosing to intuit this. I'm choosing to feel it. We've got a wonderful speaker coming here Thursday night. I trust everybody's got their tickets to Caroline Sutherland. She is a fabulous intuitive. We talk about that sense of oneness. She is a medical intuitive. And, medical intuitives, they've been around for a while. Carolyn Mace is highly known in our day for being a medical intuitive. Edgar Casey, a medical intuitive. Chiropractors, they touch you and they figure out what's going on. They begin to intuit, and a medical intuit picks up some information that isn't necessarily there on the surface, but is there to be seen if you listen. Now, Carolyn Sutherland said even when she was a little girl growing up, she always knew she wanted to be involved with medicine. She said she used to run around the house with her stethoscope, listening to the animal's heartbeat, or putting bandages on her parents or any friends that came in. She would take their pulse. And so in the 80s, when she was in medical school or working as a medical assistant, and they would run the machines, she would begin to interpret the information that was beyond the machines. And she now today can just be given a name and just processes the information that comes right through her, very detailed information as to what people can do. She's going to be here Thursday night, but I want to share with you something that she wrote in her book when she's talking about the capacity to heal. It said that most people do and will get better. That is what the body is designed to do. Never give up on your path to wellness. If you're not yet cured, it just means that there's something else waiting to be discovered. Sounds like religious science to me. Optimum health is not a mystery. I have to report that the people are looking all over the place for the answers to their health concerns when most of the solutions are right there in front of their noses. If I haven't witnessed this dramatic transformation thousands of times in clinical settings, I wouldn't have believed it myself. But God makes things simple. If we need something, it's never very far away. The path to wellness is a treasure hunt, and the next clue will show up when you need it, and it will lead you onward to the treasure. What we need to remember is that the body only wants to get well. It's valiantly trying to do so in every moment of our lives, at every age. We just need to give it the tools to do so. And when we implement these tools, people are stunned at the level of health that they have achieved. The body wants to get well. You've got to give it the tools. You can't continue to beat it up and abuse it. You've got to give it the tools that are going to work. And so being able to intuit, to connect, to be one with what your body wants, this temple of God, to be in that place where Spirit shows up and reveals to you. And sometimes in our busy, hurry-up society with the committee chatting in our head and the media bombarding us with a sledgehammer to be a certain way, we forget that we've got to slow down to listen. And what I've noticed is, as much as I attempt to slow down my outer world, the outer world keeps moving. The outer world is fast. And what I've come to discover is, as fast changing and moving as the outer world is, it becomes more important for me to slow down inside. You get that? The pace on the outside you may not be able to change, but it is important for you to slow down on the inside, to intuit, to connect, to feel your oneness, to go within and to check in and not allow the volume of your heart to be overdone by the chatter of your mind, your brain, and the committee that is in your head. Because we are in a changing world. That's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. And so to slow down during this time of change is one of the mystical keys, because life is evolving. It is emerging. It is growing. It's constantly releasing one form and taking on a new one. It's true in nature and it's true in the human form. You know, we saw it. One time you were in school and before long you weren't. Yeah, one time you were single and then you're married. Or then you were married and now you're single. Yeah. Or you never had children, and all of a sudden you've got kids in the house. Or maybe now you had kids, and now you're an empty nester. Things are changing in our life, and once you step through a threshold, you're in a new room. You're in a new place. You can't go back. And the new place can bring with it the blessings. And there are changes, and whether the changes are good or bad in your life, they all can be sacred if you're willing to slow down, to process them, to feel them, to experience them in your life. And as we move through our life, we come to realize that sometimes our body or our life, we have passed a peak opportunity in our body's experience. What I am coming to realize is my peak physical condition to drop it all and run off on the pro circuit for surfing is over. Very humbling to get, but also maybe somewhere in our life where we were once passionate and there was excitement, we don't quite feel that edge there anymore. Or maybe the word over the hill starts to make some sense in one's life. You know, the thing with all of that is about embracing it and entering into the womb, if you would, into the new room. And in the womb is the emergence of your new expression, your new self, your new being. Because this body cannot stay the way it always has. We got such an anti-aging consciousness in our country. It's amazing. Yeah, you take a look at the bookstores. There are How to Live Forever, How to Never Die, Immortality is Yours Forevermore. You know, it's almost an American fetish. We got pills and potions and product that will smooth, tighten, and lift our being. You know, I watch 7-year-olds trying to dress like the Olsen twins, you know. That's an image. To be able to embrace where we are in the new room, in the new expression, the new self that is coming forth, to allow our growth and journey through here. Because you know what? At some point, this physical form is going to lay itself down. The visible is going to pass into the invisible. Just as the invisible came into form, there was a consciousness that created the physical body. The mystics throughout time have talked about the immortality and the continuity of the individual soul that is forever expanding, is how Ernest says it. We move to the next rung of the spiral. When our mission is done here, then it is time for us to move on. Someone in Richard Bach's book's Illusion said, How do we know when it is time to, how do we know when our time is done here? He said, you won't be here anymore. How do you know when your mission is done? You won't be here anymore. How do you know when you're complete? You will move on. You will have completed yourself. But if you have spent that time connecting with the change and the evolution in your life, from that child in school to being out of school, to that parent, to that part where your body is no longer functioning, and you are evolving with grace and with ease and with love, you will continue to step out with those mystical keys that talk about right identification, that says, you know what, I'm looking out through God's eyes here, and what I come to see is God is everything. That is omnipresence. It is everywhere, and I'm one with that. I am one with that Spirit, and so I'm no longer trying to reach outside of myself, but rather I am seeing as Spirit sees right where I am. And healing continues to happen because the body in our world of affairs is constantly trying to heal itself. That is its natural state, is the constant evolution on that ever-evolving spiral in life. And the challenge comes in our world is we focus too small. The challenge comes as we keep trying to fix things in our world and forget that it is about the grand vision of our being that is moving through our soul, and that it is right that we are able to live in a world that has the grace, to live in a world that is filled with love and peace. And that when we are willing to take a look at the chaos or the war that is in our life, that the chaos and the war of our life or the world in which we live doesn't go away because we hate it so much, but it's because we love peace so much more that is what begins to emerge, and we will do what we can to live in that peaceful, evolving kind of world. And all of a sudden we'll wake up one day and say, the war is gone, the chaos is gone, the anger is gone. And years from now, when we are no longer remembered, people will be walking around and not know who to thank for a world that is free of war and chaos and fear. Who to say thank you to, they won't know. A little child will ask their parents and say, is it true that there was a time when people didn't like each other and there was war upon the planet? And they'll say, yes, it is. But it was a very long time ago. But you know what? Through right identification, you can see that and be that now. And through the omnipresent expression of God, it is already going on that time. And if you choose to feel your oneness with that, wow, what a gift to humanity you are. God bless us. Thank you. So I'd like to invite the ushers to come forward as we do take our gift from our heart. Again, with a lot of heart and soul and passion. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, and all that I receive. I am prosperous now. Hey, I trust you enjoyed that podcast. It was very exciting to be able to create that and to know that there are people like you all around the world that are observing and integrating these spiritual principles into their life. And so if you enjoyed it, what I'd like to do is encourage you to tell a friend or bring several friends together and watch another one of these podcasts, and then afterwards take some time to talk about the spiritual principles, to talk about the stories and what significance they have and relevance they have in your life. What then happens is it moves to a deeper and deeper level in your world. It becomes real and assists you to create the freedom in your life that your heart and soul so desire. So if you like this, I encourage you to watch it again, but also tune into our website here at seasidecenter.org. There, you can get some of my written material and take a look at it. You can read some of my spiritual prayers. You can even go to our online bookstore and order some of the books. And if you're so moved, what I greatly would appreciate is your financial support, which you could do online at seasidecenter.org. It is support like yours that assists us to be able to continue to do these kinds of gifts for humanity and send it out to the world. Because you know what? We are making a difference with this spiritual message. And because of support like yours, people are being touched in the farthest reaches of this planet, as well as our backyard,
more than we could ever begin to realize. So I thank you from the fullness of my heart for making a difference.